hard down the side. That's Franco Jara, who's all the way out there. Jara for Pereira, finds Arriola, and he roofs it to tie the game. First Dallas player to do so since Jeff Cunningham in 2009.
Franco Jara here coming in.
Alan Velasco. We'll give back to him. Back heel. Bar 5. Crash! And Arriola almost had another one. It's a goal kick.
Hey, welcome everyone to Big D After Dark. It's so good to see you on this Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day, wherever it is. And, of course, honor and respect families who are remembering loved ones this weekend. We're grateful, and we're here. We're here minus one of our regulars. Ishmael's on the road. He is touring different places. He's on his way to the United States Men's National Team game coming up in Cincinnati. So we wish him safe travels. But meanwhile, it's the rest of us here. I'm Nathan Hill at Nathan J. Hill. Buddy Tommy LaBeouf there at Tom_FC Dallas. And there in the end, Jose Carmona at El Chico Carmona. Excited to to talk about this most recent weekend, heading into now a break. So it's our last bit of FC Dallas action for just a couple of weeks here. But it was a good bit of FC Dallas action. After that disappointing 0-point week from last week, where the team just couldn't put it together, they go into Orlando. Tough team, but a team under Pareja that we know how they play. We know that he's always going to get his guys up for a match. But also a team that had just played extra time again in their Open Cup match midweek, and so we're tired a bit. And it was a perfect opportunity to take advantage of Orlando and really to come away with some big points. Though, for the first 45 minutes, it looked kind of like a disappointing night potentially for FC Dallas, going down 1-0 off of a really a brilliant header goal from their backup striker, but FC Dallas responded in the second half. So let's just get some reactions to this match, because there's a lot of different angles that I think we could talk about it. But Jose, we'll start with you. Just give us some of your reactions. What did you like about this game? And I'm going to play some. If I can find it here, some highlights from the match as we talk.
Well, I want to say that the team continued to play well. I thought they played well in their 2 losses and were snake bit. And the first half was a continuation of that. The team, I thought, played well in the first half and really didn't deserve to be down 1-0. But those set pieces, how do you defend that? I mean, that was just a perfectly struck pass, perfectly hit header and positioning and everything. It was just a really nice designed play and really tough to defend. But other than that, again, we saw in the second half with Nico going to the bench a lot earlier than we're used to seeing him do, and that changed everything. I mean, you had the insertion of Franco Jara, who, for me, was the man of the match. He was the man of the match because he came in and he completely changed that. They changed formation when he entered. That's another thing that we're seeing is FC Dallas. Often when they go to the bench, it usually involves a formation change, and you see other teams struggle to pick up what those changes are, and it was like a 17-minute stretch where Dallas just could do no wrong, and I was saying, it's not a slump. It was more like a speed bump. I know we were all panicking there for a bit, but I mean that's two road wins now for a team, and I think we all can say that we can see where this team has a high ceiling. Let's just leave it at that. I'm very excited, very happy for what I saw for the whole team.
Tommy, mute yourself, but yeah, tell us your reactions.
Yeah. I was a little frustrated at the half, going down with that silly foul right before the half by Velasco. It was like, tired of seeing this. This has been a common trait of this team is giving these silly fouls, and we were just talking about that before the show started. We can go back to the beginning of the year with Paxton stepping on someone's foot in the box, Martinez doing that. I think Facu had some fouls that led to free kicks, just some silly fouls, and this was just a silly foul, and it was very disappointing. Because right when I turned it on, that's right when the first thing I saw was the foul where he didn't need to make that foul. It was kind of clumsy. Yes, it was much of a foul, but it was a foul, and and FC Dallas is making it hard on themselves. Now they also didn't cover the guy on the corner kick that could have been 2 goals there. In a way, they were lucky, but in the end, in the second half, they turned it on and they were clearly the better team. And Orlando was just not ready to go the full 90 with this squad, and including the subs and the tactics going on with FC Dallas. So even though there were some things I didn't like, I mean, you can't, Hara's finish and Paul Arriola, just his motor going the whole 90 minutes. I mean, he's in the top form right now. And the one thing I really picked up from this team that I really love to see that I haven't seen in many, many years is the attitude. And taunting is not necessarily a good thing, but, it kind of reminds me of the Clint Dempsey where, they were really like giving a little attitude. And that's what that's Clint Dempsey was a winner, right? But he had a little attitude, and I like that.
Yeah, it was such an 2 nice finishes from Areola, and yeah, you could argue that he maybe had a third there. I think maybe that was a good call that they called that back, and of course Orlando had another shot or two of a potential a potential goal for themselves, and so it was one of those games where it could have gone different ways, but FC Dallas needed this win. They needed those 3 points just to clear the air, go into this break. Getting those away points is so crucial over the course of the season to make up for those hiccups at home, those hiccups on the road. So just two away wins now, which really got to be happy with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so tough to get him in this league. Let's listen to Coach Nico Estevez after the game. He was just asked about sort of the flow of the game and the performances, and I think his answer is really, really insightful here.
I think we weren't great in the first half. We weren't good enough. I don't think Orlando was much better than us, but I think we just. Talking about us, we weren't good enough, and this is what we said in the halftime. And you can discuss the call of the free kick that it wasn't a corner kick, and then you can. And then when we came back to the locker room, what I told the guys is, yeah, we can be here complaining about it, but we're gonna win. We had a purpose today to come and win as a team and play our way. And we didn't do good enough in the first half. And what we talk is we made a couple of adjustments in offensively and defensively that help us. But it was more the mentality, the intention, the going out there and have the determination to win the game. And I think this changed the game. And of course, I remember the last weekend, Saturday night, late in the night, I received a text from Franco Jara. No, sorry to not, play well today, not make the chance that I had. And I told him, no worries, you're gonna give us a lot during this season. And what a response by a guy like him. Super happy for him. And then Paul is, this is why he's here. This is why the team, the club invested. We have clear his potential and what he can do. He's the best winger in the league. And then he's showing every weekend. And I think for us, we are really, really happy to have him in our team.
So some good stuff there. So some good nuggets. That Franco Jara texted coach and said, "Yeah, I've just not been playing well enough. Sorry about that. I should have finished these chances. Which is true. Which is what we.
Which it's a sign of leadership too.
Yeah, taking ownership on that, and the coach having trust in him, and it could be that in the end, when Jara's time comes up, as an FC Dallas player, we don't go. He changes the narrative that we may go, hey, yeah, we probably sunk some money into him that probably could have spent that different ways, but he was there in critical moments and helped this team get forward, and do what it needs to do. And then, of course, Paul, there's always been that question mark. Did the team spend too much on him? A record amount of gam, tam, whatever. And but the dude has already equaled his goal scoring tally from all of his previous years in Major League Soccer. So in previous seasons. So he is in form. He's on fire. And the team has needed him to step up, even when Jesus hasn't had the greatest game. It's been fun to watch. And then too, I think maybe this is so y'all can pick apart any of that if you want. But last season, maybe the last couple of years under Lucci, a game like this would have likely ended in one scenario, and that's where Lucci throws more players forward, demands more from the players. And they end up giving up 2 or 3 more goals, and it's just a stinker of a game, and we're just, it's just not good enough. Nico's finding how to get that little extra, that tweak. Maybe it's the 4-4-2, 4-4-1-1, whatever tweak he's doing there when he brought Hara in and kept Jesus in, which some of us kind of question, like, really, Paxton is, is putting his effort in.
I think some of us thought I thought that a substitution that early just simply meant that Paxton was injured, which was my concern, But yes, I think if it was a like-for-like swap, all of us would have just thrown up our hands and said, why? And then minutes later, we had the answer. So clearly, I just want to point out that somehow Hara has transformed himself to that forward that we've been asking for off the bench. We used to have Blas Perez come in and just bring the passion, the fire, and the goals. And you had Pescadito who would come in and do that sort of thing. And we said, we need a guy like that. Okay, we didn't need to shell out $3 million for a guy like that. But that's who he's become. He's become, fire off the bench. I mean, when he comes in, he brings the fire. He's aggressive. Okay, so maybe he's not fast anymore, but he, for all his detriments, everything that you can say bad about him, fight, fire, leadership, that's all still there. Scoring threat, that's all still there. And at the end of the day, is get the ball in the net, and everything's forgiven. I mean, honestly, like I said, I said he was my man of the match, and that's because he single-handedly changed that game. And you're like, Hara did that, but he did. And
assist and a goal, right?
And this is good.
Yeah.
I think you want him to prove to Nico that he can come in and play more than 15 minutes. I mean, we're like, after 15, 20 minutes, every other match he looked gassed. But no, he came in, he gave you a solid 30 minutes, and maybe Nico won't, wait so long to call him in games like this where the team is playing good but not achieving anything, which is what was happening until Hara showed up.
Yeah, I think last show I was on, I noted how him and Faku had changed this year. Like, we'd never seen them play this well. I mean, like, as far as form and fitness, Faku has been starting, and he's got like a different, more motor to him going on, and he's a different player. And same thing with Hara, a little different under the system.
And I think it's the system. And I also think, last year you had Paxton playing in the wing, which we all knew wasn't good. I mean, it was good for him health-wise to protect him and make sure he gets the minutes, but we all knew that he was out of place. And now that Hara is looking better because he's getting service. He's getting people that are getting him the ball. Even if I think Jesus had 2 assists. He simply has more playmakers around him, and he's not the guy you're worried about, Hara, when he comes in. You're worried about Jesus. You're worried about Ariola. You're worried about Velasco. Hara's like the 4th option out there, and it makes him that much more dangerous because you're not keyed in on him, and it gives him more room to do damage. And like this game, he nailed those opportunities. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. And Facundo, again, the traditional. He just needed a year. A year in the system in the U.S. to get comfortable with it, and now you're seeing it. Now those weird dives and stuff that we used to see in
Right.
his first season, now they're timely tackles. I mean, now he dives in and he nails those, and you're like, wow, that was even if it doesn't look impressive, you just come to expect. Where before they looked like lunges that were just begging for fouls or cards. Now you're seeing, hey, this guy's timing. He's got his timing down. He's got his pace down, and he looks like a complete different player. And Hara, like I said, Hara has simply transformed. He's accepted his place in the team and has found a way to thrive. And I think that Nico has a lot to do with that. You have to, you know, that's leadership right there. That's the coach explaining to the players exactly what their place in the team is and how they can improve it, how they can improve the team.
But just the actions by Hara sending a text to the coach is respect for the coach. I mean, the coach has
Exactly.
gotten the players' respect, and man, I think Dan just got hit the nail on the head with this hire with Nico. He's just been great.
Some good stuff out there, and I mean, I just love the tactical adjustments, but I love, um, believing in guys and trusting in guys that the team's gonna figure it out. And yeah, I mean, in Orlando didn't play that great, but they played well. I mean, Perea, that's how we've known him. He gets his teams up to play, and um, they've been a strong team so far this year. So, but you take advantage of these opportunities, and I think that sort of killer instinct is what you think of when you see a Seattle Sounders over the years, right? That just the team that, hey, we're going to find a way to get these 3 points or to figure out the result, even if it's just a gritty kind of series of goals or whatever. But we want to see FC Dallas have that kind of attitude as well.
That killer instinct. I mean, I know I was messaging some of you guys, and some people were worried after the first half, and I was like, no, not yet. It's like Orlando is bound to fatigue at some point, you know. And honestly, you could say even if fatigue was involved, it was great that Dallas, jumped all over them when it did happen. In the past, on the road, under prior leadership, that wouldn't have happened. But this happened here. It happened where the team saw the juggler and went for it. They did that against the Galaxies also, and you're seeing this team thrive on that. On basically, I think this team is it's like once they score, it's like the team just explodes, and we've seen it in multiple games where the goals don't come like one in the first half, they come in bunches in short periods of time. So when this team finally gets through, it just like unlocks the team's attack, and kind of be nice if we could start seeing that more in the first half instead of the
Right.
second half. But I can't really complain.
Well, except for the fouls that they're giving up, giving up these
Yeah,
free
but
kicks and set
that's
pieces.
youth. That's youth. This is
That's,
still
yeah,
one of the youngest teams in the league. I think they're like fifth youngest team in the league, despite the veteran signings that they have. You know, this is still a very green
yeah.
team. Our midfield is
That,
very raw, and that's why you get those kind of fouls. I mean,
exactly where I was going with that is that I don't feel like the team is, maybe like 60% there, 65 somewhere. There's no way,
well, I
they're
mean,
definitely not. They're still going up, but they've not peaked yet. They're still
well,
they're
no,
still
but
learning how to
but
play.
but let me counter that by saying that can you tell me how many goals they've allowed from the run of play? I mean,
Oh,
they haven't really allowed many at all. I mean, most of the goals that they have conceded have either been on set pieces or on PKs.
right.
As far
Right.
as conceding from open play, that's not happening against this team.
It's
So
very
I
good,
think
and it's not.
so.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
So I'm saying if you can clean up those fouls and stuff, and let's face it, yes, some of these fouls this game were pretty obvious, but there's also fouls where it's just other teams baiting the officials into giving them
A little bit of
giving
simulation,
them
yeah.
fouls, simulation of stuff. But
Yeah.
that's just part of the game. So it's just a young team. They got to learn how to get better at that.
Well, the X's and O's, what Nico has brought that I think that, quite honestly, I think Lucci needs a little bit more experience with the X's and O's. Is, Lucci had too many people going forward, always got caught behind with, two people covering four and letting people loose. You don't see that under Nico's scheme, right? You
I
never see, I mean, we
I
hold the ball. We don't lose the ball very, we take our time. We don't necessarily score goals ahead of time, but we don't give up silly goals, from that.
I want to be harsh on Lucci, but at the same time, the Hunts never opened up their wallet for Lucci either.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Lucci, if Lucci had a fault, is that maybe he was he had too much faith in the academy kids, more so than your average coach. And I think Nico is benefiting from that because now he's inherited young players that got a lot of minutes under Lucci. So I'm just saying the flaw in Lucci was those two. So one, the team really wasn't spending, and he felt more comfortable giving key minutes to the academy kids,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and that backfired on him. But now, like I said, Nico is benefiting from that because look at all the games under their belts that Jesus, Cervania, Paxton, uh, Surreal, all these guys got that experience under Lucci, and I just feel bad for Lucci that Lucci didn't stick
Yeah,
around to benefit from it.
I didn't mean to put it all on Lucci, for
But
example, but
but
I think you're great. He only had his dealt of cards to deal with, right? But
yeah,
if Lucci was a bad coach, he wouldn't be at the USA.
exactly. I think Lucci will be a good coach down the road, and I just
Absolutely,
think
me
it
too.
just didn't work out from here, and I think Nico simply is further ahead than Lucci was when Lucci got here. I think that's the difference. Is I think where Lucci maybe stepped into the spotlight too soon, Nico's stepping in at the right time, and that's I think you
Exactly.
got to give that to the we got to go back to the coaching hunt and say, hey, we were all like, it's going to be the usual suspects, and we were all like, and then when they hired Estevez, we were like, okay, that's different. Well, it just goes to show that they did their due diligence. They really did go out and say, okay, this is what we have, this is what we're working on. We need a guy that's going to come in and put it all together. And so far, they hit it out of the ballpark. And I think Sonoda, Sonoda got his guy, and his guy is delivering right now.
well, let's we have a couple of weeks, I think, before the next match. So we can take stock right now and grade some of the kind of where we are at this point in the season with some of the signings, some of the new faces, and some of the performances. We've already mentioned Quinon and Hara. They're not new, but we have some other guys like Velasco.
They
And
just feel new.
they feel new, but and Paz and and Areola. So I think just taking a moment. Also Farfan, I think he's one of the new faces as well. So maybe just take a moment and kind of grade some of these things. And let's start with Martin Paz. The rumor is that, and this is interesting because I think as you pointed out, we always knew he was a loan to buy. In fact, most Major League Soccer loans, I think, are required to have that buy option because I think the league doesn't want just to become a development league for other teams. We want to say, well, if we're going to bring a guy in, see if he works out, you should have an option to buy.
Yep.
So not a surprise on that end, but what may be a surprise is that if he hits a certain number of starts, the buy clause is automatically triggered. So I think that's the kind of new tidbit. So and the word is that may have happened, right, Jose?
Yeah, the rumor all over in Europe is that it's a done deal that Paz has surpassed the amount of games that he, you play a certain amount of games, it triggers the automatic buy, and that's what's basically you're hearing all over the place in Europe is that it's a done deal that Paz has surpassed that. And let's face it, if there was a number of games in that clause, I mean, he's basically been the starter from day one, and if it wasn't for this, COVID scare that he got a week ago, he doesn't miss a single start. In all honesty,
Hmm.
he's been the clear cut number one, and
Yeah, he's been solid.
honestly, honestly, I think we've all been waiting. Even if it wasn't an auto buy, we've all been waiting for FC Dallas to buy it. We're like, hey, unless it's some ridiculous, like 3.5 million euros or something like that, this should be a buy.
Mm.
And I mean, when's the
And the
last time
funny,
we could say that about a loan? Let's be honest. As
Yeah.
all the bad loans that have come through here, this is the one loan where we were all scratching our heads saying, "Oh, only half a season," and this is a player who's gambling himself and has basically come in and I mean, not only has he come in, but he's embraced the city. He's embraced uh the team, and the guy has been everything you could possibly want from a loan. And
yeah,
I think like I said, buy.
Hmm.
and his just distribution is also very well. And the funny thing is, I was going to say is that Mara had a great year. Did he have a great year last year? I thought he had a pretty good
He
year
did.
last year.
I'm a
And
big I'm a big Jimmy fan. I'm a big Jimmy fan. Yes.
so, but Mara wasn't really the starter. Mara became the starter when we had injuries and what else. But so I don't get to see the keepers every day, but clearly there must be something that Pass is our number one.
Well,
And
Jimmy's always been a great position guy and leadership guy and a distribution guy. I mean, he does all his mechanics are perfect, but he's always been cursed with being small. 6 foot tall for a keeper is small, and
so that's
and
probably what it is. The
and and
size.
and not only that, he's not really athletic, so he's not a guy who's gonna jump massive distances like some players could, and that's always been his weakness. It's not that he's not a good keeper, it's just that he has to play perfectly every time out, and when he doesn't, it just stands out.
Well,
His weaknesses are there.
Hmm.
uh, and
my,
normally he
my
makes up
hunch
for
is
them.
Nico
Right.
came in and he saw it and he says we need a keeper and I know this guy and he got Pass in, so give Nico credit because he improved the team. Go ahead.
About that, Nico did say, I have a guy, and it was a Spanish keeper. Remember, they had worked
Right.
out a
That's
deal
right.
Right.
for a
Yeah,
Spanish
yeah,
keeper from his old
yeah.
hunting grounds, and that guy, for whatever reason, that fell
Didn't
through.
work out.
So
Yeah, I remember.
somebody else said, "Hey, I know another guy," and
Yeah,
and so I think Nico's guy fell through, and I don't know who pointed them towards Paz,
interesting.
but it was a great addition. It's kudos to whoever said, "Hey," and I bet you it's probably an agent. Like uh, you have some agents that you work with and say, "Hey, I got a guy was a starter, and he's and he got a raw deal or whatever, and he just needs a fresh place to go, and we can make this happen." And he's motivated, and boom. And by the way, I know I just want to point out that I believe Paz's girlfriend is a model, right? And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but
I don't
but
know.
I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Dallas is considered like the in the United States is the place where you go for modeling and stuff. So if you're talking about where
Yeah,
fashions
right,
and stuff like that, that's Dallas is a hub for that. So I mean, it's a
right.
perfect place for a model to land. So I mean, imagine telling your girlfriend, say, "Hey, I'm gonna go play in the U.S. and we're gonna be, right in the thick of the city where you can get all the work that you want." So,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah. Imagine
not.
having to go to Salt Lake City or something like that. Like, oh man. But
But I'm
hey,
just saying
Dallas.
it,
Yeah.
Dallas has, yeah. People forget that Dallas has it's a big part of the whole fashion industry. Just it doesn't have the glitz of L.A. or some of those places, but it is a central hub for that. So I mean, it's not as glamorous as being in Paris or someplace like that, but I'm just saying.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that guy's
It's
just hit it
good.
out of
Good
the
point.
ballpark.
I
Is what
mean,
I'm saying.
that's why I'm saying like and I shared this in one of our Twitter chats. Is like my, you know, Major League Soccer, there's always value to be had in goalkeepers. But the part of the problem is I think goalkeepers are streaky. You get them in a good vein of form, and even a backup guy can stand on his head, can do well in this league. And there's always bargains to be had. I mean, Matt Turner came kind of out of nowhere, and just now he's going to Arsenal. Dane St. Clair for Minnesota, we had to deal with him in that last home game, and he's been playing really well. And he was sort of riding the bench for a bit. He was, I think, maybe even given some minutes on the lower level. But so there's always quality to be had out there if you can find it. So we generally say don't spend $1 million on a keeper unless they're really going to change it. But Martin has. And if he ends up sticking around for quite a while, then I think it's really worth it. $1 million for £1 million, I guess, or euros or whatever for starting. Who's going to help change things? And let's be clear. If Martin started against Vancouver, we would have probably at least had a point, don't you think? I mean,
I think so. I think so. I think Paz not being there, and I think Velasco not being there also hurt big time in those matches. I think I said that last week, and so I agree.
Well, let's shift over to Velasco now. He's in one of these other new faces, and I'm just curious on a letter scale, like a grading, how you would grade his signing so far. I mean, I know there's been a lot of excitement, and there's been worthy excitement, but then we've also seen, I think, and especially in this last game, he makes a difference. His presence creates space, but we also see his growing pains as he's adjusting to this league. What fouls he can get away with, what kinds of things he can do and not do, what kind of work he's gonna have to put in. So I'm still very positive. I'm saying at least a B, because I think he has room to grow, and it's only going to get better unless something terrible happens. But like the foul that did lead to that goal, that free kick, it was just unnecessary, and it's the kind of thing a young player does. And a young player in this league that maybe in another league you get away with that a little bit more or something, but in Major League Soccer you get called for kind of dumb stuff sometimes, and you just got to learn and learn how to adjust, right? How would you all grade him so far?
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I think a B is not far off. I mean, the starting, ever since he's been here, after a couple of weeks, he's been the starter, and we haven't even seen Sean. We've seen O'Brien become a sub player at minimum, replacing Velasco. So just judging by the minutes alone and the starting, he's the starter. You're right. He's the left winger starter, sometimes right winger. His jumping skills are amazing, and he's still a kid. He's still 19. So, it's not perfect. His passes, he gets there, and, he causes a lot of, gets a lot of attention now from the defense. Sometimes he's been doubled and leads to other players getting the ball and passing and scoring. And he has 2 goals. I just looked up. He has 2 assists. I think a B is fine. But, in some of the categories, it's like one-on-one, taking players on and losing the ball. I think he's been like a C-. But all the other categories, I think he's been just fine. He's just a kid. But, the biggest one I'm going to say right now as a 19-year-old, he's committed. He's committed to this team. He's bought in, and I give him an A+ on that. Yeah.
All right. Well, despite the sometimes cryptic tweets, I think that people freak out about, but
he's still 19 years old. I mean, I've been in a situation where I moved out of the house and I wasn't even in another country. I was in another city, and I felt the same way. So I get that. I don't want to read too much into that.
And I give him a B+. I'm convinced that he affects the game more than any other player when he's out there. He simply opens up lanes for everybody else by his presence, attracting double, triple. I saw him run, get quadruple teams at time, and and let's face it. I mean, you can't. He's one of these guys that just does stuff out of nowhere. That backheel pass that almost led to a score, that was crazy. And and it's like you're not even surprised. You're like, yeah. I mean, anybody else would be like, why? Why are you doing that backheel pass? Velasco does it and makes it look like it's normal, and that's what this kid does. Is it's I think,
Yeah.
like I said, I'll stick with my guns to say that if he would have been there, if he hadn't missed those 2 games on the road, uh, I'm not so certain that Dallas doesn't walk out of there with at least a point from each of those games because they really did miss him against when those teams sit in that mid block and bottle up the midfield. Velasco is priceless, and having more than one player that can unlock that, having Jesus and Paxton and Velasco, it makes a world of a difference. Like I said, he affects the game just by being on the field, and it's just a matter of time before he starts putting it all together. And I mean, honestly, I think we have probably the best attacking three in the league. And
Yeah,
and
I
and
agree.
before people want to argue with me, you've got Jesus is the top scorer in the league, and then you've got you got you got Ariola
Ariola.
catching up to him right now, who's fourth in the league, I believe. And
And
I
how
mean
many
that's
assists does he have as well? And the
uh,
fake dummies that also counts, right?
exactly,
A lot of
exactly.
fakes.
And
Yeah.
so two of the highest
Yeah.
scores in the league, and and let me be clear here with the way that Hara is playing. It's not too ridiculous to think that this team could have 3 players that are in double digit scoring
Hmm.
this year.
Yeah,
That's not
it's nice.
too far. Uh, uh, that's not really me, going out on a limb. That's a very real possibility. The way this attack is flowing.
And I'll give you an analogy real quick to be really excited about Velasco, and I'll use it with Michael Barrios. Michael Barrios' his first half season here, and Michael Barrios' second half season of here. You remember how he changed? He wasn't a
Oh
good
yeah,
player. I
absolutely.
mean, like Velasco is still learning how to play here and learning to play with this team, and he's only 19 years old, and it may not be till next year, but wait till he, when it
And he
slows
and
down for him.
and he's not being asked to be the number one option either in scoring. He's like Paxton. He's being asked to be a creator. And at the end of the season, I won't be surprised if he ends up with more assists than goals. Because hey, we've got other guys doing all the scoring. So his job is basically just to break down those defenses, and I mean, look at how good we think. I think Paxton's doing great this year, but how many assists does Paxton have?
Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot of key passes, but Velasco has more assists than Paxton.
Right.
So
Yeah.
uh,
And Pascal,
another
I
player.
mean, go
Paxton's
ahead.
trust me, Paxton's assists will come. He's
Yeah.
playing that good.
Yeah.
But Velasco should be at FC Dallas. It's the perfect move for him because he's not ready for England, he's not ready for Europe. He still needs to develop. And being at FC Dallas and playing where he is, I think
And
he's in the right
let's
place.
let's face it, he's getting the spotlight in Dallas put on him because this team has
Yeah.
produced several big time sells to Europe, and he's clearly the next guy that everyone's going to be watching out for.
And
But
the other thing I
I
picked
want
up real quick is he's got Argentina players on his team.
to.
You see the camaraderie with him and Hara and Facundo.
Yeah, that's a huge deal, really, and I
It's huge.
I wouldn't mind seeing maybe North Texas going out and getting some young Argentinian players loaned to them and stuff, just so they can increase the number of Argentinians on the team. Because
Sure.
they do go out and get like U19,
Hmm.
U20 players from South America.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be wise to basically sprinkle more Argentinians on the roster. But I want to move on from Velasco and say, you know, the one addition right now that I think we all have to start getting worried about right now is Nanu,
Right. Right.
who's basically all but disappeared recently, and I think, but he's alone too, so it's like I think, like I
Is he
said, I think I
hurt?
said it before. I don't know
I
that
don't
he's
think
hurt.
so. I don't think so.
No, I believe he's not. I think he's just
He
been
was
beat
coming
out.
off
But
injury, if I remember correctly, and
yeah,
so that
yeah,
may
but
still be a bit of a factor. But
even
yeah.
then, I think that injury has basically allowed Tomasi to seize the starting job, and I want to say of all the additions, Nanu right now is probably the one that's panning out the least right now. On the bigger picture, it's forced Tuamasi to up his game, and Tuamasi is now. I think he was questionable last year, but now he looks like a certified starter. Sure, he's not perfect, but he's a clear starter at that position. And I think Nanu is when his season's over. And mind you, don't forget, like you said, there's buy clauses, and most of your buy clauses have X. If you play X amount of games, you got to buy them.
Yeah.
You saw that with Ricarte, where we said, "Hey, how come Ricarte isn't playing so much last year?" Well, that's because they didn't want to trigger that buy clause. That's what it
Uh,
ultimately ended up being, and I think that's where it starts happening with Nanu. If now that you're seeing Tomasi become the starter, Nanu may simply not get playing time as starts because if you're not going to buy him, you don't want to trigger that, and that may come
what
back
about
to hurt you.
Sean? Because we haven't seen Sean at all.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
that's
I got a
he's in
feeling he's
He's in
going at the break.
Hungary again, so I can't say
Yeah.
he keeps getting called up by his nation, so clearly he must be doing something right.
Right.
I'm just saying they're they're saying, hey, I mean, how many nations do you know that call up a player that's not getting tons of minutes with his club? I don't know too many countries that do that. So the fact that he keeps getting called up, like I said, it's just the fact that he
Yeah.
hasn't figured out a way to fit into the system yet.
My gut feeling his time is up. I think he's going to be out, but
I
I don't
I
have
think
any.
I think he's a future loan because he's a U22 initiative and guy, and you got to remember that the U22 initiative allows you to keep a player, a high end player, at a dirt cheap price up until he's like 25. So the team's in no rush to get rid of Shun. So I think a loan is probably what they need to work out for him. Why not see if one of the clubs in Hungary will take him? I think that'd be a great spot for him. But I think it's a loan for him because, like we were saying, Velasco is the certified starter. Ariola is a starter, and the first guy off the bench is O'Brien. So Shun's got to beat out, Elmet Kahar, and he's got to beat out uh, Redzik, and he's not here. He's not here because of injury and because all his call ups. He's
Call
just not
ups.
here enough to affect that. And God forbid what's going to happen when the team eventually gets around to signing Kamungo or Hope Aviabu.
Mm,
So I
mm.
think alone is the best thing for Shun right
Yeah,
now.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I just, and I'm sure he wasn't happy when the team splashed all this cash to bring in Velasco because it was clear that,
He was the biggest loser on this. Yes.
yeah, yeah, and so
Yeah.
so that makes sense. It makes sense, but you still got an opportunity to battle for minutes, and even in the Open Cup matches, he was up and down. He was flash something,
Okay,
but
well,
then yeah, it's
But
just tough.
that's the thing with the Open Cup matches though is to get those minutes you have to advance. If the team gets eliminated after two games, that's only two games. That's why you want to
well,
you know, make sure the team keeps moving and moving because that's more minutes for you. But two games, that's just not enough for Shun to make his case.
when a new coach comes in, I mean, it's just like if they have some players
Exactly.
that can get in and sign, and that's their bread and butter. That's who they're going to play, right? It's just
Yeah, and the coaches that we now have that mentality that hey, just because you're on the roster doesn't mean you're getting minutes. You have to
right,
beat out other people.
right,
So I mean, let's say they send Shun
top to
down to
bottom.
North Texas. What happens if you send Shun down to North Texas? You know,
He
Kyle's
wouldn't be
going to say the
happy.
same thing. He's going to say, hey, you're going to the back of the line. You got to beat out Abayavu or Kamungo for those minutes, but you're not
Hmm.
here, so I can't start you, and that's not going to fly
Right.
either. You don't send a player like that down to North Texas to sit on the bench.
And Farfan, I mean, many were upset about losing Hollyhead, but I saw it as youth coming in, and he's just been solid in this scheme. I really like Farfan.
Yeah,
Farfan is a
no,
great
he's doing
addition.
his job. He's had, I think he's had a couple games where you kind of wanted more from him, but Um, and you see Hollingshead is scoring, just doing Hollingshead stuff. We miss that, but I don't think we have that expectation that Farfan's going to do that. And he's had a couple of moments too where he's had some opportunities. So I'm very pleased with that signing. It's economical. It's just a good roster building block, and it has been smooth as smooth
Yeah.
can be. Yeah.
Well, you
Loves
think about
Ryan,
it.
but I'm happy for Farfan.
You think about it. When we had Nelson, we said he's a really good defender. If you could only get forward and give him time, he'll get there. Well, that's where Farfan is. Farfan is a great defender, and he's still young enough that it may take him a year or two to get to that point where he can be more effective going forward. And we're already seeing him do that. He's more of a uh, he's more of a pass first than score guy. So it's just a matter of time. I'm saying he's young enough. I mean, that's the great thing.
Yeah.
It's you gained a player. You've gained a player where essentially, if you were to average them out, there really hasn't been any drop off as far as we're concerned, because his defensive contribution has basically made up for the fact that he doesn't have the offensive contribution that Hollingshead is. And to me, that's a push. Except you gained a player that's still young and can still improve, and hopefully will add some of that scoring in the near future.
It's not really in the coach's schema. He wants to make sure we always cover the back and not leave ourselves
Yeah,
vulnerable
but
with
we
too many
saw
people going up.
we do see Farfan get forward though.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah.
so so I'm just saying he's just not really a scoring threat yet. But you do see him get forward, and that'll come eventually as he gets more comfortable with in the attack.
And the draft, Siki was a great draft. I always thought it was going to be Parker that was going to be getting the playing time, but we haven't seen Parker at all.
Well,
Jose
but
can give us an update on Parker.
well, Parker's starting for North Texas. I mean, he's doing good, and let's face it, Farfan has basically locked down that starting position. So he's not going to get any minutes with FC Dallas, and that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, player. He's 19 years old. He's getting valuable experience because let's not forget he's actually a winger, so he's transitioning to fullback, and that's fine. One season in North Texas is good for him. Um, Not a problem. I have no problem with that. He's doing good. I can't complain. And he was always basically going to be a guy with huge upside that was going to need time. And as opposed to say Bartlett, who's 24, that's two different things. Bartlett basically has this year to show that he can break into senior team, or I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded away or something like that. Where
Mm-hmm.
if Parker, he's going to be given a couple years.
Because I remember the initial training camp coming out. Oh, Parker's looking really good. Parker's looking good. Nothing about Zeke, and then Zeke came out of nowhere, right? Started
But
playing.
I think the difference though is opportunity too. Though Siki happened to be in a playing a position where, mind
Well,
you,
he was a winger.
he
He
was a
wasn't.
winger,
That's
but
right.
they drafted him with the idea of moving him inside. They made that
Right.
clear from day
Right.
one.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying the difference is Siki is in the right spot where we had no depth, and he basically found playing time and
Opportunities.
proved an opportunity. The opportunity was there. Parker's
Yeah.
not going to get that opportunity. Bartlett isn't going to get that opportunity because he's behind Tafari. So
Yeah. I agree.
excuse me. So and that's just it. Is you get that opportunity, you seize it, and Siki did it, and great for him. And he was a first round pick. So how often have we had 3 first round picks? So the fact that 1 first round pick is doing good, I think that's okay with me. I'm okay with the other two, learning the ropes in North
Mm-hmm.
Texas, which continues, by the way, to be one of the top teams in MLS Next Pro.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, we have a break. We have a break, some international break with some games to watch. The United States men's national team as some last minute guys try to make their statement and their case for a World Cup roster spot. Be interesting to watch over the next couple of weeks.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm hope I'll be cheering for Ariola to get some goals because I know the USMNT fanboys just hate him for some reason. So
I feel like Paxton deserves a call up, and I'm sad not to see him get called up. And it's also the situation that we just talked about. There's a lot of midfielders that we have, but I feel
Yeah.
like Paxton deserves a call up to be playing for the
but
U.S.
but I think that's the same thing what we're just talking about with Parker.
Yep.
The midfielders ahead of Paxton right now.
Yep.
Who are you going to pull to bring in Paxton? So it's just if Paxton had started playing like this last year instead of this year, he may be in that. But right now it's like, well, it's a little late. So I'm not saying Paxton can't still get in there, but his window is closing and closing and closing, and
Yeah.
that's okay. I mean, I'm okay with him not being with the U.S. men's national team because I'd rather him be here, not get too many minutes. I still think that I'd rather him get the rest and the time with the team. I don't
Yeah.
want him
It,
overplayed.
it's clear he still has some work to do, and he was asked about it on a call, and he was like, I don't think I played well enough yet to get that call up. I would love that opportunity, but and so I think if he could turn it on in the second half of the season, and injuries happen because they will happen, you never know if he might get another look. But yeah, the window is closing. I think
I think for him, if someone gets hurt, like you mentioned, that would be his way to play this year, this World Cup. He's probably on the edge. He's probably next.
It'll be interesting to see. Still some spots up for grabs. Still some things happening. So it'll be fun to watch. But we'll leave it there tonight. Great conversation. Good to be back. And of course, subscribe to our podcast wherever you find podcasts. We'll be uploading the video here shortly tonight. And listen in and share and help us grow the show. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Good night.